Blue Chew is, it's just dick pills. And my friend was like, I'm taking Blue Chew. I was like, that's kind of weird. You're like a young guy. Why do you need Blue Chew? He's like, I'm hooking up with a married woman. It feels very wrong. I can't get hard unless I take Blue Chew. I was like, okay, that's insane, dude. Your body seems like a really good person. Your mind, huge piece of shit. You're not taking it to overcome erectile dysfunction. It seems like you're taking it to overcome morality. That's insane. I believe I was like, I'm on antidepressants. No, not like depression or anything. I just get sad when I rob innocent people. You know, I really need that SSR.
Good morning. It's Tuesday, Trump Tuesday, May the 28th, and this is The True Conservative. Welcome to all the butchers, bakers, and candlestick makers out there. I'm Ron, your host, and the only true conservative in the United States today. So today, after the Serenity Prayer and the patriotic song of the day, we will have the patriotic shorts, motivation, Bishop Barron, Ayn Rand, and the 33 strategies of war, and Donald Trump. All that and more when I get back. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I should not change, the courage to change the things I should, and the wisdom to know the difference. Amen. Thank you. Now, Stuart Varney with the headlines.
Take it away.
Hey, good morning, Maria, and good morning, everyone. This is going to be a big week. We have what looks like the beginnings of a summer rally for stocks. The fighting around Rafah in Gaza has produced global condemnation. And what everyone's talking about, Trump's trial in New York, and that's where we start. Final arguments today, the judge's jury instructions soon after that, and possibly a verdict this week, possibly. Here's what's new, though. When the verdict is in, the president will reportedly make a statement from the White House. He doesn't want his statement to be political. All right, let's get to the market. It is Tuesday morning. After a long weekend, the Nasdaq could make another record high today if it closes anywhere near where it's going to close this afternoon. Looks like a summer rally. The Dow is down a bit, off 30 points, but the S&P is up 7, and the Nasdaq up another 40 points at this stage. Take a look at Apple. Big gain today on a report that its iPhone sales in China have picked up sharply. It's now $192 a share on Apple. Little change of interest rates. The 10-year coming in right now at around 4.46 actually. The 2-year just under 5%, now at 4.92. Bitcoin, $68,000 a coin or thereabout, 68.1. Oil under $80, but only just 79.02. Gas down 1 cent, 3.58. Diesel no change at 3.86. And gold, where are we this morning with gold? 24 or 2,300 bucks an ounce? It's 23.77. Okay. All right, politics. Civilian casualties in Rafah after an Israeli attack. There is global condemnation. Netanyahu calls it a tragic mistake, his words, but insists Israel will keep fighting, quote, until we raise the flag of victory, end quote. Biden's taking heat on this. Congresswoman Rashida Tlaib says he, Biden, is an enabler of genocide, her words. On the show today, a dramatic headline in Politico, Dems in full-blown freak-out over Biden. Yeah, there is grave anxiety about Biden's chances in November, and Democrats have no idea how to deal with it. Baby boomers are the wealthiest generation in history, but unlike other generations of wealthy retirees, they're not spending it. Are they mean or financially cautious? Which is it? We'll cover it. Tuesday, May 28th, 2024, Varney & Company is about to begin.
And that was the headlines with Stuart Varney. Back in a minute. Thank you. Now, the Patriotic Shorts.
Any regrets from your part for calling the Prime Minister a wacko, even if you think his policies are wacko?
No, because I can't think of any other word to describe what he's doing in our communities. He has decriminalized crack, heroin, cocaine, meth in parks where children play in British Columbia. He has even allowed, his law even allows for people to use meth, crack, and cocaine while they have weapons in hospitals. That has led nurses to be afraid to go to work. One nurse had to stop breastfeeding because she breathed in meth fumes. And yet the Prime Minister has given a criminal code exemption to allow this to happen. The BC NDP government even thinks this is wacko. They have asked him to reverse the policy.
On April 30th, 1966, the XB-70 Valkyrie was circling over California, so the pilots could burn up its fuel to later crash it in the desert. But wait, the question is, why? Neither up nor down, this jammed nose gear is the answer. All the attempts to fix it failed, but when the bomber was still in the air, the engineers on the ground, luckily, identified the problem. After 2 hours, they told the pilots to simply short-circuit the circuitry. But wait, there wasn't any toolbox on board the bomber, so what to do now? One pilot had a briefcase in which he used to have his flight documents, and there he found a paperclip. The pilot malfunctioned the electricals, and the landing gear was lowered. However, this malfunction caused 3 of the 4 main landing gear wheels to get locked, but the plane still landed safely, and a 2-cent paperclip saved a $750 million bomber. Let me know your thoughts in the comments about this.
So I went around the edge of a big rock, and they hollered at me, Harvey, got a guy coming at you, look at him. And I dropped that stick right there and turned around, and I had a .45 pistol and just hit him right in the belly. Now, I was in a lot of action. That's the first enemy that I killed that I said, that was my kill. Because when we'd meet somebody else, maybe 5 or 6 of us be shooting at the same target. Then we looked at his weapon, the Japanese weapon. It was an Arisaki rifle, and he didn't have any bullets in it. So he was coming at me with a bayonet.
What do you think the biggest mistake new carriers make?
The decision of when to use it.
Really?
Oh, yeah. If I pull this pistol out, that means I'm going to use it. So I'm going to decide whether I'm going to kill someone or not. Because if you're not comfortable with the idea of killing another human being, then you shouldn't carry. That's the number one thing. And then the second thing after that is range time, obviously, but I mean dry fire.
You had talked about making the decision whether you can kill or not. You've experienced more combat than 99.9% of the population. Is there a decision-making process that goes through your head before you make that decision? And what is it?
And it's a pre-made decision, because if it's not pre-made, then it'll be an emotional decision. So that decision-making process and knowing who and what I'm going to kill for. And if it doesn't meet that criteria, then I'm not willing to go to jail. I'm not willing to take another life.
You know the story on the Rolex and the Special Forces?
Let's hear it.
So back in Vietnam, they employed, the Green Berets, and they had to work with the indigenous population. They were making TDY money. In Vietnam at that time, they had Rolexes. If you go into a foreign country and you link up with a foreigner and you need to get out of the country, what timepiece do you think is recognized by the world?
Rolex.
The Special Forces, they would have the Rolex, and if they needed to get out of the country, that was currency. It's still being used today.
Favorite timepiece?
Rolex Submariner. No, favorite timepiece?
Favorite timepiece of all time?
So, Rolex Daytona.
You like the Daytona?
I love the Daytona. So, in the movie Kill Bill...
The movie Kill Bill?
In the movie Kill Bill, when she found out she was pregnant in a hotel and that girl with the shotgun came in, well, there was a scene where she was holding a Submariner Daytona with a leather black strap.
And that was the Patriotic Shorts. Back in a minute. Thank you. Now a little motivation.
And you're going to fail. 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 And then you're going to win. And that's life. Life without those challenges, it's just existence. Don't just exist. Go live. Eventually, inaction will cost you. But your default setting should be, I'm going to do something. Just get up, move towards that challenge, and go attack it. Go do something that's hard. Struggle sucks. Depends on how you frame it. If you want freedom in your life, you have to have discipline. Move towards that challenge, whatever that challenge is. And you may be successful, and you may not be successful, but you will be better. And the next challenge, you can be more prepared for. Because we're going to have wins, we're going to have losses. We're going to have successes, we're going to have failures. We're going to have good nights, we're going to have bad nights. We're going to have good relationships, we're going to have bad relationships. We're going to have good ideas and bad ideas. We're going to make money, we're going to lose money. All these things are going to happen. And if you oscillate emotionally up and down drastically, it's going to be problematic. Embrace those emotions, but don't let those emotions embrace you. Keep pushing through things that suck. This is a very difficult thing to do because it hurts. I'm going to go forward. I'm not going to quit, so I'm going to go forward. Bring it on. When you talk to people that went to SEAL training that didn't make it, most of the time, it's some reason. There's a medical reason. There's a family problem. There's very few people that look at you and say, oh, I quit because it sucked, which is what happens to the vast majority of people. The vast majority of people that don't make it through SEAL training, they didn't make it through because they quit. Your excuses will destroy you and take everything that you ever wanted from you if you let them. When your excuses make you feel a little bit better about the fact that you didn't execute on what you needed to execute on, then they can make you feel better, but they're not helping you. They're not helping you at all. This went wrong. This failed. Didn't accomplish this. And it's not the fault of my boss. It's not the fault of my girlfriend. It's not the fault of my parents. It's not the fault of the weather. It's my fault. And I'm going to take ownership of it, and I'm going to fix it. That's what extreme ownership is. Because when you look around at your life, and you look around at your job and your financial situation and your relationship and your physical health, and when you look at all those things and all the problems that you may have with those things, and you say, the reason I have all those problems is because of me, that can hurt. That can sting. And a lot of times our ego rejects that and makes excuses and lies. And then we don't have to change anything. And then nothing changes. When the excuses all go away and people can actually confront the fact that this is all because of me, it hurts, but is also unbelievably empowering. Because the more discipline you have in your life, the more freedom you will end up with. So if you lack the discipline to exercise and eat healthy, you will end up being a slave to disease. If you lack the discipline to work hard, save your money, you will end up a slave to finances. If you lack the discipline to manage your time correctly, you will end up with no free time. If you have self-discipline, if you have the discipline to save your money and work hard and invest your money properly, if you have the discipline to manage your time correctly and not waste a bunch of time, if you have the discipline to exercise and eat healthy, you will end up with freedom. And you're going to start to progress in every aspect of your life. And you'll see that if you have that kind of discipline right now, you're going to end up with freedom. If you have discipline, you will attain freedom. Go try and accomplish something that's hard. You may win, you may lose, you may succeed, you may fail. I'll tell you what, you'll be better. And if you don't have that kind of discipline, and you don't work hard, and you don't exercise, and you don't apply yourself, you're going to end up shackled. So if you're in the woods and you don't know where to go, start walking. You got to start walking because the perspective's not going to change. You have to start moving forward. But standing there lost and not doing anything is just waiting to die, waiting to starve to death. Don't let that happen.
I think it's really important because as men, we get conflicting messages about emotion and how to express it and what that looks like. And there's a lot of men struggling right now.
Every human faces challenges, and you don't know what they've been through. Suppressing them isn't going to help, and nor is letting them run your life. Because you're sad, now you're going to make a bunch of bad decisions because you're sad. No, it doesn't work like that. It doesn't work like that. You're sad, okay. You get emotional sometimes, okay. Got it. Now, get control of your emotions and carry on with your life. And sometimes you're going to get hit with those waves. And that's okay. Oh, I'm having an emotional moment right now? There's something wrong with me. No, there's nothing wrong with you. There's nothing wrong with you. The other extreme is, I'm letting my emotions run my life and I'm making a bunch of bad decisions. And my excuse is, I lost some friends or I had this traumatic experience happen to me. That's why I'm doing. That's just an excuse. And it's a very easy excuse. Guess what? It's time to carry on. Remember, don't dwell. I'm in control. This is my life. If you are in the problem, you won't see the solution to the problem. Take a step back, detach from the chaos, detach from the mayhem, detach from your emotions, detach from your ego, and be able to assess the best way to execute. That is the job of a leader. If you take any trait of a human being and you take it to an extreme, masculine or feminine or otherwise, you take it to an extreme, it's going to be a problem. Is it good to have no emotions whatsoever? No, that's called a sociopath. Is it good to let your emotions run your life and make your decisions based on your emotions? No, that's not good either. What do we want to be as a human, as a man? We want to be balanced. It's much easier to be extreme. It's much easier to say, oh, no emotions, cool, and turn them off. That's easier. Or total emotion mayhem, that's easier. It's harder to find balance. It's harder to find balance in business. It's harder to find balance in life. It's hard to find balance. But you have to be balanced. Because what I want is for the team to win. So be balanced. You're going to be okay.
And that was a little motivation. Back in a minute. Thank you. And now we have the Daily Dad by Ryan Holiday. And this is going to be the Daily Dad for the 26th, the 27th, and the 28th.
May 26th. Epithets for your kid. One of the most interesting passages in Marcus Aurelius' Meditations is this one. Epithets for yourself. Upright, modest, straightforward, sane, cooperative. Try not to exchange them for others, he writes to himself. And these were essentially the words that Marcus wanted to live by, his principles expressed in the fewest syllables possible. Well, what if, as a parent, you sat down, ideally with your co-parent, and fleshed out what those words would mean for each of your children too? As in, what kind of kid are you trying to raise? What are the watchwords that you are attempting to move them towards with the choices you make as parents? Some obvious ones: kind, loyal, moral, honest. And maybe some more specific ones to help them succeed in the world: creative, bilingual, hardworking, lifelong learner. Maybe to some parents it's important for their kids to be athletic, for others that they be readers, for others still that their kids lead a life of service. There's a lot of room for choice here, and thankfully most of the answers you come up with will be right. The important thing is not so much what the epithets are, but that you have chosen it all. For if you don't know what you are aiming for, how can you expect to hit a target? How do you know you're not actually teaching them to exchange one epithet for another? The truth is, you can't. So get to writing. May 27th. The main thing we have to teach them. Michael Schur's fun book of moral philosophy, How to Be Perfect, ends with a meditation on what is one of the toughest jobs for even the wisest and the best of us: how to pass the important lessons of life on to our kids. And one particular passage captures perfectly what those lessons are. You are people on earth, he writes to his kids. You are not alone here. And that means you owe the other people on earth certain things. What you owe them, more or less, is to live by the rules that they wouldn't reject as unfair, assuming they're decent, reasonable people. And he has a great little exercise for his kids to remember too. As you go through life and are thinking about doing something, he says, ask if your brother or sister would think it's a good idea. Then keep going. Ask if a friend would think it was a good idea, or a teacher, or even a kid you don't like but think is smart. Explaining Kant's categorical imperative to a 5-year-old, ask, would it be okay if everyone did this? What would the world be like if every single person was allowed to do whatever I'm about to do? The way to raise decent and kind human beings is to teach them how their actions affect other people, what their obligations to other people are. You don't have to be a philosopher to pull that off. Just a good and decent person yourself. May 28th. It's usually not an accident. Florence Nightingale was an incredible woman. She revolutionized nursing. She saved thousands of lives. And this came as a surprise to the high society of Victorian England, because women weren't supposed to do career-type things, let alone something as hands-on as working in a hospital. but anyone who looked at Florence's family tree should not have been surprised. She was not just some saint who came from nowhere. Her great-grandfather was a philanthropist who supported the American Revolution, even donating large chunks of his holdings in Savannah to the cause. His son, Florence's grandfather, was a member of the British House of Commons and a leading abolitionist in the UK. The fact that his daughter, Fanny, Florence's mother, didn't seem to care much about the less fortunate was the exception, not the rule, in their family. It wasn't an accident that Florence Nightingale was inclined to charity and selflessness. She learned it in the fashion that all great traditions are created from the choices made by family. She was inspired by her ancestors. We can't choose the family tree from which we spring, but as parents we can choose who in our family tree that we look to for guidance. We can, like Florence Nightingale, pick which family members to be inspired by, whose example to follow. As parents, we can choose which branches of the family tree we tell our kids about, which stories we want to highlight, and which lessons we want to fill their heads with. Raising great, selfless, and courageous kids is not an accident. They aren't sui generis. They don't come from nowhere. They come from tradition. They come from us.
And that was the Daily Dad for the 26th, 27th, and 28th. Back in a minute. Thank you. And now, Bishop Robert Barron.
Think of Franklin Roosevelt, the young Roosevelt, from this distinguished political family. And then he begins this glittering political career as a young man. He's Assistant Secretary of the Navy, and everyone's predicting, a governor and a president. It just seemed the most natural path for this brilliant young man that charmed everybody he ever met. Then, polio and paralysis. And Roosevelt, by all accounts, fell into years, even decades-long depression, self-pity, a sense of fruitlessness and hopelessness. His mother largely encouraged him just to retire. But what made him the great figure that he was? Yeah, to a degree, his positive qualities, he kept those all his life, but the compassion that was born of his struggle with the thorn in the flesh. Where you stumble, that's where you dig for treasure.
And that was Bishop Robert Barron. Back in a minute. Thank you. And now, the Ayn Rand Thought of the Day.
Why is it that man throughout, I guess, at least recorded history, seems to need something else, a belief which you do not believe in, I assume, do not believe in the existence of a supreme being or God or creator or whatever.
No, I do not.
You want to label it. Why has man then seemed to need that ever since man has been on earth?
The actual need is for a conscious philosophy of life. Man is a conceptual being. He can't exist range of the moment. He needs a larger view, a long-range plan. By default of proper rational principles, he falls on religion because that is all that is offered to him. So that I regard religion as the infancy of mankind. It is the pre-philosophical stage, and a great many people are still in their infancy.
Thank you. And that's now the Ayn Rand Thought of the Day. Back in a minute. Thank you. Now, the 33 Strategies of War.
From the Greek Myths by Robert Graves. Heracles had performed these 10 labors in the space of 8 years and 1 month. But Eurystheus, discounting the 2nd and the 5th, set him 2 more. The 11th labor was to fetch fruit from the golden apple tree, Mother Earth's wedding gift to Hera, with which she had been so delighted that she planted it in her own divine garden. This garden lay on the slopes of Mount Atlas, where the panting chariot horses of the sun complete their journey, and where Atlas's sheep and cattle, 1,000 herds of each, wander over their undisputed pastures. When Hera found one day that Atlas's daughters, the Hesperides, to whom she had entrusted the tree, were pilfering the apples, She set the ever-watchful dragon Ladon to coil around the tree as its guardian. When at last Heracles came to the Po, the river nymphs, daughters of Zeus and Themis, showed him Nereus asleep. He seized the hoary old sea god, and clinging to him despite his many protean changes, forced him to prophesy how the golden apples could be won. Nereus had advised Heracles not to pluck the apples himself, but to employ Atlas as his agent, meanwhile relieving him of his fantastic burden. Therefore, on arriving at the garden of the Hesperides, he asked Atlas to do him this favor. Atlas would have undertaken almost any task for the sake of an hour's respite, but he feared Ladon, whom Heracles thereupon killed with an arrow shot over the garden wall. Heracles now bent his back to receive the weight of the celestial globe, and Atlas walked away, returning presently with 3 apples plucked by his daughters. He found the sense of freedom delicious. "I will take these apples to Eurystheus myself without fail," he said, "if you hold up the heavens for a few moments longer." Heracles pretended to agree, but having been warned by Nereus not to accept any such offer, begged Atlas to support the globe for only 1 moment more, while he put a pad on his head. Atlas, easily deceived, laid the apples on the ground and resumed his burden, whereupon Heracles picked them up and went away with an ironical farewell.
And that was the 33 Strategies of War by Robert Greene. Back in a minute. Thank you. If you're a Democrat, you should be voting Republican, because the Democrat Party has been on the wrong side of history since the Civil War. Vote Republican. Back in a minute. Thank you. And now, Maria Bartiromo.
Closing arguments will begin today. They're expected to last all day today, possibly going into tomorrow. Now, the defense will deliver the closing arguments first, followed by the prosecution. This is the reverse order of opening statements. Typically, it's the defense that gets to present arguments last before the jury deliberates. Trump is calling this unfair. On Truth Social, he writes this: "Why is the corrupt government allowed to make the final argument in the case against me? Why can't the defense go last? Big advantage, very unfair." After closing arguments, Judge Merchan will then instruct the jury on the law before sending them off to deliberate.
So the point I'm going to make here is, again, this is about government rights. The whole trial is about government rights versus the rights of the individual. The judge is obviously on the side of government rights and believes that the government has the right to try to prevent various things and to use whatever means are necessary in order to do so, that the government then has the right to arrest, that the government has the right to prosecute, that the government even has the right to conviction. So much so that he's turned the process on its head, and by putting having the defense go first and the prosecution go last, his theory is that he's going to give the prosecution every advantage, and if Trump is still found not guilty, then it's proof of his innocence. But it's not the job of the defendant to prove their innocence. It is the job of the government to prove their guilt. So he's turned it on its head, and he's done it in the name of government rights, something that does not exist. The government has authority, minimal, and it has responsibilities, also minimal, and absolutely no rights. We can't have a society, a civilization with dueling rights, in which both parties have rights. The government has rights, and the citizens have rights. Can't happen. It's got to give way. Either we go back to the idea of citizens have the rights and the government does what it's told, or we're going to end up being an autocracy in which the government has all the rights and the citizens do what they're told. Back in a minute. Thank you. A little bit more of Maria Bartiromo.
The Food and Drug Administration completing a review of a new cattle feed ingredient by animal health company Elanco. It aims to limit methane gas emissions released by cattle. It's expected to accelerate livestock sustainability and increase innovation in the farming industry. Joining me now is Elanco President and CEO Jeff Simmons. Jeff, thanks very much for being here. Give us a sense of this and how this improves the backdrop for these kinds of drugs and animals.
So this goes back to, again, the words that she talks about methane, but the crawl underneath her says carbon neutrality, and that's the issue with global warming / climate change. It's always, keep your eye on the ball, it's always about carbon dioxide, because carbon dioxide is power. If they can set themselves up as regulators of carbon dioxide, then they can regulate every living being on the planet. And that's what this is really all about. Now, methane is a greenhouse gas because methane is lighter than air. It travels all the way up into the troposphere, and so it is a greenhouse gas. Now, does that mean that the government now has the right to regulate it, that they have the right to try to prevent global warming? No. We have the rights. The government has a limited amount of authority and a limited amount of responsibility. But this is an example, again, of the government usurping the rights of its citizens and giving it to itself so that it can, at least allegedly, to give itself basically more power. And again, we live currently in a society in which we have a rights split. Government rights, individual rights. And the judiciary is the referee, the decider as to whose rights are more important. Normally, the way it would work is government's got authority, people have rights, and if you go to court and you say, hey, wait a minute, the government, yes, it has authority, but it's stomping on my rights, the judiciary should immediately say, sorry, government, no matter what authority you think you have no authority to stomp on the rights of the citizens. Stop what you're doing. And it's just that simple, just that easy. But the government has been slowly but surely since 1900 and the advent of Mr. Herbert Crowley has been assuming more and more, quote, rights. Started with Teddy Roosevelt, who just went out and usurped a whole bunch of land and property, declared, just with an executive order, declared a certain amount of property acreage to be federal land. No, he has had no right to do so. The other President Roosevelt did the same thing. There was a lot of rights going on there where he is declaring that he has the right to do certain things. Executive branch, federal government has the right to do this and that and the other thing. And it's not true. But again, when we have this split between government rights and citizens' rights, it can't last. Because what ends up happening is everything then ends up going to the courts. We are not able to the government's not able to work efficiently because every time it tries to assume its rights, the people then assert theirs. The judiciary then has to make a decision as to whose rights are more important, the government rights or the people's rights. The Democrat nominees are always going to go for the government rights, and the Republican nominees are always going to go, or most of the time. You have Roberts on the Supreme Court who went with government rights a couple of times. But generally speaking, Republican nominees like Republican nominees like Thomas are the ones that are in favor of individual rights and or the rights of the several states. So we have to get rid of this notion of government rights. Government has authority as laid out in the Constitution and in the 10th Amendment to that Constitution, and it has a limited amount of responsibility, and that's it. No rights for the government. Back in a minute. Thank you. And now, Stuart Varney's My Take.
Yes. How many times have we said the alarm bells are ringing at the White House? Every bad poll, every gaffe, every policy disaster, and the alarm bells are ringing. Well, they are surely ringing now with this from Politico. Quote, Dems in full-blown freak-out over Biden. It says, and again I'm quoting, a pervasive sense of fear has settled in at the highest levels of the Democratic Party over President Biden's re-election prospects, end quote. There is a gap between the confidence Democrats express publicly on TV and the palpable trepidation they express in private texts. There's good cause for grave concern. The polls are bad for Biden. He's now raising less money than Trump. The trial in New York has become a platform for Trump's campaign. Here comes Hunter's trial. That can hardly be a positive. And overall, there's the image of an aging president who a majority thinks is just too old for the job. Here's another problem. The Democrats can't replace Biden as the candidate unless he agrees to it. And he shows no intention of walking away. And if he did step aside, it becomes President Kamala Harris. And you can't move her aside for fear of offending people of color. In a word, the Democrats are stuck with their ticket. Unless there is a shift in the polls and a miraculous return to youth and energy for our president, the freak-out will continue. And you know, it won't be long before it becomes much more public. Second hour of Varney just getting started.
So, a couple of things. First of all, Donald Trump deserves to be president of the United States. He deserves the nomination of his party, and he deserves to be president because he makes promises and keeps promises, and because he's healthy, and because he has experience. President Biden does not deserve the nomination of his party and does not deserve to be president again, mainly because of his health, his poor health. What he should do is resign as president. He should suspend his campaign, go home, get better, get with the doctors, get himself healthy, and then if he wants to still run for re-election, then go ahead and do it. The other thing is that one of the side effects of government rights, the government thinking and people thinking that the government has rights, is that the people in government think they have the right to be in government. So for President Biden, I'm sure he believes he has the right to be president of the United States. Kamala Harris thinks she has the right to be vice president. Then there are cabinet members, the FBI director, who's arrogant as all get out. He acts as though he thinks he has the right to be the FBI director. So the cabinet members think they have rights. People in Congress think that they have the right to their seat. No such thing. And we have to know that, understand that in order to be able to combat it. And it must be combated because there's only room in any country for one set of rights. Either the government has the rights or the people have the rights. And as long as this government in the United States of America and the people in it believe that they have rights, then we're going to get crushed. Because what it's going to come down to is the use of force. Who has more power? Who has the ability to use more physical force? The average individual or the federal government? Easy question to answer. So government rights have to go away. And you got to confront that wherever and whenever you see it or hear it. Back in a minute. Thank you. And now, Donald Trump.
So as you continue to develop your talents and to make your mark upon the world, remember that nothing worth doing is ever easy. You'll have bad moments. You gotta love what you're doing. And if you don't, just do something else. Keep standing up always for your values. Keep loving your country. And one of the most important things, never, ever quit. Never quit. Then ask yourself, what imprint will you leave in the sands of history? What will future Americans say we did in our brief time right here on Earth? Did we take risks? Did we dare to defy expectations? Did we challenge accepted wisdom and take on established systems? In my short time in Washington, I've seen firsthand how the system is broken. A small group of failed voices who think they know everything and understand everyone want to tell everybody else how to live and what to do and how to think. But you aren't going to let other people tell you what you believe, especially when you know that you're right. I know that each of you will be a warrior for the truth. Will be a warrior for our country and for your family. I know that each of you will do what is right, not what is the easy way. And that you will be true to yourself and your country and your beliefs. Remember this, nothing worth doing ever came easy. Following your convictions means you must be willing to face criticism from those who lack courage or the guts or the stamina to take it and to do it. It's called the road less traveled.
Thank you. The following is one of my voiceover demos. If you're a voiceover artist and you would like to advertise one of your demos on my podcast, please send an MP3 to thedrill12, all one word, at gmail.com. That's thedrill12 at gmail.com. Back in a minute.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Caesar's Palace for 12 rounds of boxing. In the red corner, from Los Angeles, California, wearing the red trunks with the gold trim, weighing in at 125 pounds, the lightweight champion of the world, Danny Little Red Lopez. Well, Bill, our winners get a home theater receiver. That's right. Experience the full potential of high-definition video with this 72-channel digital home theater receiver from Yamaha. But wait, that's not all. They also get a 5.1-channel surround sound system from Mirage. With 5 palm-sized speakers and a compact subwoofer cube, the MX 5.1 brings you huge immersive sound with Mirage's omnipolar technology. All from the Spiegel catalog, Chicago, Illinois, 60609. And they're taking closer order as down the stretch they come. Mr. Hot Stuff has 3 lengths to make up with chocolate candy last. On the rail, take the points behind that gallant son with chocolate candy gaining on the outside. In the lead is Pioneer of the Nile being tackled by chocolate candy. They're neck and neck as they come to the wire. And Pioneer of the Nile holds off chocolate candy and wins the Santa Anita Derby. And now, on your feet, time to greet holder of 14 NBA titles, your home team, your Los Angeles Lakers. Number 3 at 6'8", 5th year out of UCLA, playing forward, Trevor Ariza. Starting at center, number 17 at 7 feet, 4th year out of St. Andrews High School, Andrew Bynum. And at guard, number 24, 6'6", 13th season out of Loyal Marion High School, Kobe Bryant.
Thank you. This is Ron, your host, the only true conservative in the United States today, bidding adios to all the butchers, bakers, and candlestick makers out there and reminding you that you are not neutral and that the government has no rights.